Hello, and welcome to another episode of Accounting Insiders Podcast. My name is Gary DeHart, and I am the publisher of Insightful Accountant and the host of Accounting Insiders Podcast. And today, my guest is Marjorie Adams, the CEO and founder of Fourlane. But titles don't matter, right? So just call me for dinner, right? So Marjorie, where are you? You're in Texas.
Yep.
Is it Austin?
I'm outside of Austin, Texas. Yeah, just in Spicewood. Yeah.
Okay. Is that where you're from?
No, I'm from San Francisco Bay Area. So like I'm used to being in the East Bay. This is kind of like being in the West Bay of Austin. So yeah.
Okay. So do you do now we're already off track. We didn't talk about any of this in the green room, so to speak. But do you do like South by Southwest? Do you get involved with all that?
You know, I've never done South by Southwest. I tend to be heading out of the city when everyone is coming into the city. I've done ACL. We have the new Moody Center, so that is a lot of fun. We just had the Country Music Awards down here, so lots of people coming in for that too. But I've done the barbecue. That is very big down here. One of our first clients was a big barbecue, old school barbecue place down here. And of course the lakes, that's a big part too. And right. 6th Street, that's where you go for music and drinking, right? So.
Right. Yeah, I've been to Austin a couple of times, but was only downtown for had one meal and then was out. But I'd love to get back out there.
It's a really different city. When we first moved down here, I moved in 2008, so before the mad rush in the last couple of years. But I moved down here and I thought it was really different because the downtown doesn't have the businesses, right? When you're in San Francisco, you have the big companies that are in the high rises. Downtown Austin is a lot of residential, and the big companies are kind of in the outskirts. And so it's really interesting how it's set up. It's different.
Is the school downtown or is it in the burbs?
Downtown.
Okay, it is downtown as well.
Yeah.
And what's the size? What's the student body?
Huge. I mean, I think I don't know the count. I know it's well over, the stadium seats over 100,000 people. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. And we actually have a great partnership with the school to run our intern program too. We bring some of the Macomb students on to come and intern with us during the summer. We do a 10-week intern and it's a lot of fun. So we have a good relationship with the accounting team over there.
Oh, that's fantastic. So actually, before we dive any further, on your LinkedIn page, actually, and this is a good transition. So on your LinkedIn page, you referenced that. I don't know when it was posted, but I just read it today. It was a little cartoon about interns. What's your job experience? I don't have any. Great, you're hired, kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of great reasons to do that, right? One, you're helping people who need to be in the work environment.
Yeah.
Some of those people, need the money. Some of them need the experience or a combination of the two, but you're also able to shape people into the way you want to shape them, right? And give them a great work experience.
Yeah.
And how many do you hire a year?
Well, it's growing. So we had, I think 5 or 6 last year. We've got like 6 or 7 this year. So it's always getting a little bit bigger. We take it on a different approach. So like you said, get a good base. There's a lot of firms out there, some of, the big fours, KPMGs and all the things that will not take first-year students. And we do take first-year students because we want to provide that foundation. It was actually quite entertaining. I went to a dinner for the endowment fund that we have with them, and scholarship dinners, and they were all seniors in the accounting on an accounting pathway. Most of them said they were going to be CPAs one day. And of course, here at Fourlane, we are not CPAs. We do not focus on tax. We do not focus on audit. We focus on software implementation. And they were asking me, what do you do? And I said, accounting software implementation, expecting that senior accounting students would understand what I was saying. And one of them, which I loved that she spoke up, because, if you don't know, ask for sure. She said, what does that mean? what is that? And so I said, okay, well, tell me when you worked at these internships, what software programs did you work in? And they said Excel. And so that's where, for us, our interns work inside the software from day one. They come on board, they learn how to tear apart a file. My goal for them is that by the end of the 10-week program, they can rip apart someone's file and know why that file is not set up the best way for businesses to make decisions. So by taking them at the freshman software year, we can give them that foundation so they can be even stronger when they go to their audit and tax internships.
And I see multiple things that are fantastic about that. And the one that really stands out to me the most is the profession is, there's a huge void, right, in people coming into the profession. And I think a lot of it is because of the perception of, oh, I'm going to get stuck in some dark closet somewhere doing an audit for 6 weeks with a, what do they call it, a 10 key. I'm not an accountant, but some horrible audit, right? And what you're showing them is, hey, there's a lot more to it than that. And while, again, nothing against CPAs, nothing against tax, nope, it's not for everybody. And right, there's a lot of opportunity out there. But we have gotten way ahead of ourselves. I haven't even talked about what I found when I went to your LinkedIn page. So, and it's important because it's especially now we're talking about school. It's important because you have a poli-sci, I have to read here, poli-sci and ethics degree.
Right.
And you participated in an accountancy master's program. Now, does that mean you have a master's in accountancy?
No. Okay. I did the accounting portion, and then when they wanted to take me to the general portion, I was like, nah, I'm done with this part.
we have a lady who writes for us for Tax Practice News, Christine Gervais, who is working on her doctorate in accountancy. And it just makes my head hurt to even, I can't even do it. I can't, right? And so, but you are data and reporting expert. You sit on the Forbes Finance Council, which I would like to know a little bit more about that, and Intuit's #1 reseller partner. And can't forget this, multi-year insightful accountant, top 100 pro advisor, and I think a 2-time category award winner, I do believe. I couldn't remember which awards they were, even though it was just a few months ago.
Yep.
But so impressive resume. What is the Forbes Finance Council? What is that?
I mean, the Forbes Finance Council is people who are thought leaders in the industry. They ask us to participate in contributions for articles. They ask us for, our opinions and then they help to place them in different outlets. Okay. And then it also has a community where they'll do things like the people who are part of the council will go on excursions, or they have some internal chat that we use to rely on each other. They have a Facebook that we use to rely on each other. So it's kind of just a community, but also a PR source. And similar to, there's another one that I was part of, and I think I might get kicked out pretty soon because I'm over 40 now. So, but the YEC as well. So that, or I think it's called YEC, and it was for the youth. You have to be under 40 to be participating in it. Yeah.
So is that like Young Entrepreneurs Council or something like that? Is that what it?
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. Well, awesome. And then, so a data and reporting expert. What's that mean in a nutshell?
What I realized is that over these years, I mean, to make decisions, you have to have data. You have to have consistent data, and not everyone can build a report. Not everyone understands the data and can twist it and turn it to get it into a usable fashion. And I realized that is something that's unique. And so I stuck it out there.
Yeah. And people like yourself, and by saying like yourself, pro advisors, accounting, people in the accounting profession, whether you're a bookkeeper, an accountant, CPA, EA, you have so much data at your fingertips. You have so much information at your fingertips. Can you touch base on why there seems to be a reluctance in from a lot of people within the profession to take that data and that information and the knowledge that you have and become reporting experts, because the information is there and you're in the trusted advisor seat. But it seems to me, it just seems there's a little bit of a reluctance to take that next step and go, hey, look at all this data that we have, Mr. Customer. Here's what this means. And then to sell it, right?
I think, I mean, a hard part is the consistency. So the inputs, right? Making sure that the inputs are consistent, so that you can get to that good solid data. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is, I don't think that people are so used to looking at my balance sheet and my profit and loss. And what we've learned, especially over the last couple of years, is that you can't wait for that. We can't wait for the banks to close, for the vendor invoices to come in. We have to be able to make decisions in a short time frame. So like our company as an example, we have weekly scorecards that we're looking at, and they are red, yellow, green. Green is we are on track, yellow is maybe, and red is off track. And we have metrics that we use that roll up, right? Some smaller metrics, some high level metrics that allow us to know if we are headed in the right direction or if we need to make some decisions about pivoting. So getting to that data is very crucial, but I think what people are used to is they're used to waiting for that data, right? And we have to go grab it sooner usually.
Right. Okay. And so that actually leads me right into a quote that I'm not going to name a name. Oh, did we lose you again? I'm going to pause. Okay, so we're having a little bit of technical difficulty here and there, so apologize for that. But what I was about to ask Marjorie, or I was going to share with you, I won't say who this was, but my question is, how have you become Intuit's #1 reseller partner? But before you answer that, the quote that I've heard from, I think it was 2 people who told me this. So, well, how do you run your business? One of them said, well, I find out, or I think 2 people said that, find out what Marjorie is doing, and I do that. And that's from one of your peers who I know pretty well, who is pretty successful in what he's doing. So I think that's a great shout out to the business that you're building there. So what does Fourlane do, and how are you different from the hundreds, thousands really of other firms that are out there?
So first, I just want to say thank you for that. I feel like I have tried to contribute back to our profession, our community, as much as I can over the years. So it's humbling to hear that. But here at Fourlane, we say our passion is to educate and provide opportunity, and it doesn't just have to be here. It's everywhere. So it's very powerful and impactful for me to hear that. And now I lost train of thought. What was the question?
What all does Fourlane do?
Oh,
and
yeah.
then what are you doing that's different from what your peers are doing? I mean, because there's hundreds of companies out there, right? Or thousands. And but clearly only one can be Intuit's #1 reseller. So
the thing that Fourlane did when we started off that was, I think, different than most trajectories of people in the pro advisor space is that we didn't start out as a bookkeeping firm, because that wasn't really my background. My background was in helping to implement software. When I worked at a manufacturing firm, I was helping with their books, but they were very slow, so they didn't have a lot of bookkeeping that needed to be done. So I took the time that I had in my 40-hour work week, that wasn't much, and I implemented QuickBooks for them. And then I went to another firm at Armini & McKenna, and I helped people to implement QuickBooks. So when I started this company, I went at it as helping people convert so we started in 2008, technically, right? And then branched, came down here to Austin in 2009. I started, people were struggling with finances. There was a lot of change happening in the world. And so they were flocking to QuickBooks like crazy. And there was a huge opportunity for me to help them get into QuickBooks. Now, these were a lot of people in big ERP systems, sometimes, ASP 400, they were DOS-based systems, they were all over the board. And those were the ones that were my sweet spot, NetSuite, Intact, all of my very first client was a conversion from Intact into QuickBooks Enterprise for a nonprofit. And so because we came at it from that angle, when you do software implementation, it's project-based work, right? So it's small bits and pieces. And when you get exposure to a whole bunch of projects, a whole bunch of companies, then you just learn that much faster. And so that's how we started out differently. And then along the way, along the way, we made some choices. I think I was one of the first people on YouTube to put enterprise videos out there, and people were saying, like, why are you doing this? Why are you putting, like, we train people on how to write checks. Why are you putting how to write checks out there on YouTube? And I was saying, because I don't want to teach people how to write checks.
Right.
I want to teach people, what does a check do? How can I use a check to do the thing that I'm trying to get done in my software to get to the data I need to get done, So I didn't want to have those conversations. I wanted to solve more problems, right?
Well, advisory, right? You wanted to be an advisor, not teaching somebody how to write a check, right?
Yes.
And so, okay. And so, so is it 100% software implementation, or do you do bookkeeping at all?
Yeah, we do have some bookkeeping customers. Our clients tend to have full accounting departments. So usually we're doing some filler for them, maybe while they have somebody who's out, or there's like some kind of changeover in staffing. So we'll do some filler for a time period, get them all cleaned up, and then eventually they hire. So we do some bookkeeping. We do much more like financial review, sitting down with them, making sure that they're on the right pathway, making sure that they are keeping consistency with their data, and helping them when it's time to make a pivot.
Okay, so you mentioned before the red, yellow, green. Is that just for your internal company, or do you do it for your clients as well? Do you kind of have that set up for them?
We coach to trying to get to weekly metrics with them. However, a lot of times the weekly metrics, so in what we're dealing with customers is the end result, right? So we're telling them, here is all of the data, and it's going to flow into your accounting system. Most of the time, it's after the fact. Where that kind of data comes from is usually CRM on the weekly metrics, and most of us know QuickBooks isn't great with CRM, so it's coming from somewhere else for those specific metrics. What we will look at with them on a more regular basis, so inside the accounting file, would be things like around inventory, making sure that our inventory costs are going down consistently. So those are things that we can see. What is our quantity on hand? How much do we need to order? What is our profitability on projects? So more results oriented than what we do internally, which is a lot of sales oriented.
I got you. Okay. And so any tricks of the trade, again, I'm going to keep going back to the number one, Intuit number one reseller partner. And I do want to get into, Intuit has certainly made some changes around, I don't even know what it's called now. Is it QSP, solutions provider? It's changed a couple of times, right? Does it even have a current name?
Yeah, it's still QSP currently.
Okay. All right. So kind of tricks of the trade. I mean, how did you leverage Intuit's programs again back in the day, because it's changed, to build your business? I mean, did you really start as, hey, we're selling QuickBooks, or was the messaging more about, you've got issues, we can help you solve them?
So I think one of the things that our firm did differently is that we never did one or the other, right? So there are a lot of firms out there that sold QuickBooks and relied on Intuit to help implement. And then there were a lot of firms out there who were great at implementing QuickBooks and then focused on bookkeeping. And you can only handle so many of those when you have the bookkeeping element. Yeah. And so we did both. We have a sales team. We've had sales from day one. My husband came from sales, so that was lucky. He also did our marketing, so it was like cheap labor in the beginning.
Right.
That was also a huge differentiator.
Oh, sure. Right.
Yeah,
Well,
access to marketing.
marketing at all is a
Yes,
differentiator, right? I
yes,
mean,
100%,
yeah.
100%. So we focused on doing both sales and project. And then of course, as with most firms, you get so busy and then you're like, okay, how can I grow this project? Because I have the sales coming in, the sales are coming in, but how can I maintain with this project? And we always tried in our budgeting and our projections to keep it very equal for how much was going to come from product sales versus how much is going to come from services. And the relationship with Intuit has been great over the years. They are our number one competitor and also our number one referral partner, right? So, yeah.
And so, so from a diversity standpoint, as far as the product, I mean, so you do sales, you do implementation, you don't rely on one or the other. Are there other products in the bag outside of the Intuit, product line?
Yeah. Yes. So part of the Intuit changes, the Intuit QSP program has been changing for, I'd say, like the last 5 years. It's been rocky and trying to figure out what our role is, right? In the relationship with Intuit. That's all we want to do is we like doing what we do. We are a service company at heart. Intuit came to us, back in the day and asked us to sell. And so we started selling also. But we're a service company. So that being said, with the rockiness, one of the things that we considered was we need to not have all of our eggs in one basket. Usually to me, whenever our leadership team would say, we need to diversify, we need to add a product, I would say, why? Like QuickBooks has so many users. There's no way we're going to run out of people to consult with. There are plenty of fish in the sea. There's no reason to diversify. But with the changes in the program, we definitely branched out. So we took on Acumatica first as a product. It was new to the market, ERP, and it's doing well. We did something like 8 deals our first year, which was, I think, unheard of. But that's because we have such a big base already. And then last year, maybe 2 years ago, we took on Xero and worked with the Xero partnership. And then we're also providing opportunity for NetSuite as well. So we like to take an approach. So because we're a conversion firm, right, that's what people knew us as, we took the approach of we want to do like a love it or list it type approach, which I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but it's
Got your trademark. We do not, we'll get some legal jargon somewhere, right?
Right. But it's, somebody comes to us in NetSuite, they want to convert over to QuickBooks, and we say, well, why are you converting? Because conversions are difficult. They're super hard. They're very expensive. And so can we keep them in their product instead of having to convert them across? So yeah, we've had to diversify and it's been great. Our team, my people on my team, they get bored easily. And so if I don't keep them active and those brains active and we're not problem solving all the time, then they probably would not want to be here. Yeah. So by diversifying, that's allowed us to have just like a whole new life of what we're learning.
I would imagine it gives you a lot of credibility too when you go in and you are able to say, look, I don't really care which product you go with, and we're going to point you to the right one. And I imagine that lends credibility to it, but also for the people who do work for you as well or work with you, they're learning all these different systems and methods of implementation and the good and the bad and the ugly of each. I mean, it adds value to their resume. Not that you want anybody to leave, but certainly makes them more valuable to you or in the marketplace, right? Being able to get hands on.
Yeah, 100%. We always treat our employees that I always say, for your next job, I want you to have this title. For your next job, I want you to have this exposure, right? Not that I ever want them to leave, but we set them up for their we always talk about for their next job, because we want them to be that much better. But it is a little difficult. It is much more simple for a client to come in and say to a NetSuite shop and say, you do NetSuite, show me NetSuite, and then I'm going to do NetSuite, right? In our situation, we do offer a choice, which sometimes choices, take away from client experience. They just want to know, like, they just want to go somewhere. They don't want to have to have this opportunity. And we are all the time constantly navigating which is the best choice, because every day the softwares are rolling out changes, right, to compete better with each other. So yeah, it's a constant battle. But what we want ultimately at the end of the day is we want our clients to have the data they need to make decisions, right? And the software matters a little bit. The price of the software matters a lot. But the data is what matters the most. And they're all just databases, right, at the end of the day.
Right.
So.
And now, do you work with the apps? And we'll probably stick primarily with QuickBooks on this one, or QuickBooks and Xero. Do you work in the app ecosystem? I mean, so are you spending, or are your folks spending a time really vetting all the various apps that are connecting with Intuit? And are you doing that? If so, are you doing it based on customer needs, or do you have kind of teams that are set up? Hey, you guys are always on top of payables. You're always on top of receivables. What's the latest and greatest? How do you handle that?
Sure. So our first goal is to not use apps at all, right? Because, and I know all the app companies are going to want to poke at me. And now it's not possible to not use apps. Let's be very clear. Yeah. But that's our first goal, because what people used to do, like the NetSuites, they would come in and they say, oh, use our program because you don't have to use apps. When you go to QuickBooks, you have to use all these apps. And so that's how they would sell away. And so we try to focus, if we can, do as much as possible in product. Then outside of that, of course, we have a ton of apps that we do work with. You cannot get away from having a sync with your web store. There has to be a sync. You cannot get away from having a tool to do your EDI. That's going to be, something that you're using. Customized reporting. There is a need for these things. CRM, obviously, there's a need for these things. But what we do, the approach that we take with it is we try to stay on top of the market and know the best apps available for customers. But there are so many new softwares every day. It is very difficult to do it. So we let clients drive a lot of it.
Okay.
So if a client comes to us and says, I need help with a accounts payable process, or I need help with like an RFQ process on top of QuickBooks, what we'll do is we'll kind of go out and do research, present several options, and of course learn along the way. We'll have our influence. Our job is to make sure that the data flows appropriately into the accounting software or out of the accounting software, and then maybe influence the customer, but ultimately let them make the decision. Right. So it's not like a go-to stack, just like with the software. We're not only going to represent one.
Right. Yeah. And again, lends a lot more credibility when you say, no, you go this one versus that one. It's not because I'm getting paid more here or there. It's because it's the right tool and the right product.
Right.
So, so I guess we did talk about a little bit about how the changes in the program. I don't think this isn't about, hey, let's bash into its QSP program. I mean, change happens, right? And if you're, and if you're building your business around a, multi-billion-dollar software company, you don't have a choice but to react or respond, maybe whichever one's the positive side of that. But to change when they change, because you're very important to them, but it's not going to change their trajectory of their business. Correct. And so, so you already laid out kind of how you pivoted around that. So one thing we did want to talk about before we run out of time, and I think you're a great person to ask this. I asked ChatGPT, I shared this with you before, is QuickBooks Desktop going away? I asked ChatGPT and said, no, of course not. I'm paraphrasing, but no, of course not. And many people prefer it because of, I can't remember what it said, security and something else. So ChatGPT, the smartest brain on the planet, apparently, says it's not going away. What does Intuit's #1 reseller partner say about desktop and it's, is it going away? What do you think?
I mean, so the desktop means a lot of different things, first of all, right? Like they've got Mac. So desktop is it functions not in a web services enabled environment, right? So we have got, QuickBooks for Mac, we've got QuickBooks Pro, Premier, and QuickBooks Enterprise. For me, I just look at so I don't say if I think it's going away, but I do say you have to pay attention. So things like QuickBooks Pro is not available for sale anywhere else in any channel, anywhere, right, online, where, Costco used to be able to buy it at Costco. You could buy it at, Walmart.com and Amazon and all these other places. And it was the highest volume product that was sold in those places, not for sale at all anymore. So that was a major shift that Intuit made. I don't know why they would make that shift unless they were simplifying. And honestly, I don't know why they haven't made the shift before, because it's very complicated. If you look at their desktop SKUs, there are thousands of them, between, the Pro hosting and the Premier hosting and gold, silver, platinum, diamond, T-sheets. There's so many different SKUs, and I am super excited for them to make it more simple for customers. Now, is that difficult for the people who have been paying, $150 every 3 years for their single user Pro software? Yes, it is a difficult pill to swallow. But the rest of the world has not been doing that, right? And Intuit has let us kind of not be exposed to what everybody else is doing in the world. So I think that we have to make a shift. I think we have to simplify. I do not think that QuickBooks Enterprise is going away anytime soon. You can see in products, they added intercompany transactions this year. Is it perfect? No, it's got some tweaks that need to happen, but they're investing in that product just like they're investing in their online product. So I don't think Enterprise is going away. So desktop as a whole, no. But do I think that some of the smaller SKUs might be eliminated and simplified? For sure.
That probably happens all the time, right? And it should have, like you said, why did it take so long? And again, you know a lot more about it than I do, but yeah, if you've got this whole clutter of stuff. My dad, when he was working, he worked for this company. The name of it at the time was Dillard Paper Company, and it started off as they sold printing paper when the company was first founded, and then they got into other supplies, and then they ended up in industrial supplies. They ended up in packaging supplies. And that's where he concentrated more. It was in the packaging side, but they literally could sell anything. And they were a, straight commission is how they worked with their sales team. But when you have that much to sell, it's kind of hard to sell any of it well. And so it makes sense if you kind of narrow those SKUs down to where you're like, look, we're going to be really, really, really good at this and dominate this space as best we can. And sometimes you got to walk away from things.
And in our space, because what we've done is that same thing narrowed down in the services world, right? So our services and how we roll out projects is not specific to a software. Now, the software might have some certain tweaks in it, right? So the 80-20 rule, 80% of it is going to be consistent, 20% is going to be unique to that particular software. But that's exactly what we did in services. So I'm excited for Intuit to hopefully one day lower the options, because it'll make our services opportunities even more consistent, right? So.
Okay, yeah. So what do you do a lot of partnerships with peers?
Yes, yeah, we work a lot. We work with pro advisors a lot. We have a lot of pro advisors who refer work over to us. Mostly so nobody wants to do conversions. I've learned this over the years. Everybody hates conversions. We love them. And then also because we do custom work on top of QuickBooks, that is very common in the, NetSuite, Acumatica space to have customizations on top of product. And in the QuickBooks space, I don't think it was as common. It's becoming more common. We've always done customizations. And so people will come to us for things like the fact that in QBO, You can't have, you can't decide which payments are being applied where, and any little tweaks that you need on top of the product. You can't have multi-company roll up without using an app. So we will make the product do what people need, almost like they're in an ERP space. So yeah, we get a lot of referrals from people like that.
Great. Well, anything else that you think we need to talk about or that we haven't touched on?
Well, I'm interested to hear the direction for you guys, like where you guys are going next. What's your big plan for the contributing back to the community?
Yeah. Oh, wow. So, for this year with the Top 100 program, we get feedback on that where, some people just don't participate. So like, oh, I participated last year. I didn't get in. I feel like I should be in. But it's points based. So it's not us going through a list going, oh, we like Marjorie. We don't like, Bob. It's not that. It's like, it's based on on the work that you've done and your history and your certifications, et cetera. But we listened. And so with that, we wanted to broaden the number of people that we could kind of bring into the fold, so to speak. And we even had some people who've been on the list for many, many years who have said, I think I'll just bow out so other people can get on the list. And so we added we've always had this up and coming Pro Advisor Award, which actually was one of your employees last year, right?
Yeah, Alicia, yes.
Yes. So we've always had that. But what we did this year, we expanded that to actually, we'll recognize up to about 25 as the number that we put out there. So by the time all this is said and done, which is application closes on the 26th, but by the time all this is said and done, we may have as many as 125 that we're able to recognize. And again, the point of that was to try to broaden that list to get some of the younger profession, people who have not been in the profession as long, get them interested in the program. And so that's probably our biggest thing, certainly around that program that we did this year.
I would certainly take like a legacy award and step to the side because when we first got that Intuit of the Partner of the Year award, it was motivating. And it was one of the biggest drivers. And then since we were on top, I never wanted to not be. I'm very competitive. I never wanted to not be up there. And that would be just a difference maker for people. So I love hearing that. I think that is very encouraging for people. That made Alicia, her reaction was wonderful. She felt very empowered. So
yeah, and it's unfortunate just the timing, the way everything has to work, because we do work it around scaling new heights, and then it all happens. All the hard work for the applicants happens during tax season, which there's a whole group of people that are pulling their hair out already, and then we send them this 100+ question survey. And then when we are able to announce it, you've only got like 3 weeks to book your flights to get to Scaling New Heights. But that's just how it works out, unfortunately. But we do have a great place that we can go and present these awards. So I was glad she was able to make it. It was nice to meet her. So we have that with our, we did start this year too. I mentioned our tax practice news product, and that's the TPN wall behind me here. We are now doing like a regular monthly webinars on that, or from that product, only 30 minutes, they're shorter. And then last year we started, I don't know, and I think you spoke on one of our webinars, but it wasn't on our Future Forward. It was just on like the post award winners webinar, right? So last year we kicked off this Future Forward series, which is, we do it 3 times a year. It's supposed to be 2 half days, but it ends up being about 2 3/4 days. We're doing one in May 23rd, 24th, and then we haven't settled on the dates in September and December yet. But so the one in May is around automation and workflow. And then in September, we're looking at, actually, we're talking about AI a little bit. And actually, it's integration and automations. Then I think September is workflow and AI and something else. And then December is kind of a looking forward, wrapping up the year So that's probably our biggest initiatives right now is tweaking that top 100, putting a little bit more effort and focus on tax practice news, and then the future forward events.
I love it. I love it. I love that you guys are, I mean, getting the word out and helping with communication across. And so I'm thankful for it. So that's
Well, we
awesome to hear.
appreciate that, and certainly any support you can throw out, or social media or what have you. We're always looking for that. So it's always helpful.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, once we get this all wrapped up, we'll make sure you're aware of it, and we'll get it posted. And so, and again, actually, before I wrap up, from a content perspective, I think you and I probably talked about this before, but if there's ever any press releases, certainly send them our way. I think you guys have a huge knowledge base there. If you're looking for another place, I'm not quite as big as Forbes Finance Council, but looking for another place to get the word out within the community, we're a great place to do that. And we're always looking for fresh content that's relevant for the space and your peers. So
what they do that is really great is they have this thing where you log in, and you don't even have to do the thing. You log in, you could send an email out once a month or something, just to certain people. Excuse me, I need some water. And they send out and it's just a whole bunch of questions, and sometimes they're repetitive, sometimes they're not. Like I could tell you some examples of some if you wanted to, and then they just take that, and sometimes they'll come back and say, I want you to turn this into an article. And of course we have PR people, but then sometimes they just say, like, here's the top 5, and they spotlight everybody, and everybody gets excited because they get some press too. So they do that really well.
No, that's great insight. We've talked about trying to build out a council, and it's something I think we really need to do. It'll help us keep a pulse on the profession a lot closer. And so, all right, so I'm going to wrap us up, and just remember, I'm going to wrap it up with, if you want to be successful in this space, find out what Marjorie and Fourlane are doing and do that. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
And thanks for your time, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Sounds good.
Thanks. All right. Bye-bye.